Welcome to the show, Jairek. Thank you so much for joining.
Hey, thanks for having me. It's good to be here.
Amazing. I read your book, Live It. Think it's fantastic. Also did your peak performance course a while back. And one of the core concepts that you discuss in your book is something that I think is absolutely fascinating and can totally be a game changer for most people, which is this whole idea of majors and minors. And many people end up spending a lot of their time and energy on the minor aspects of life, just the daily to-dos, the things, getting caught up in the busyness. So how can people start shifting from these minor things to the more major things, such as health and relationships and the more major parts of life?
Sure, it's a great question. So to frame it right, just so people can understand what I'm talking about, because if I walked up and I said, what's most important right now? And you told me I'm really working hard to get more subscribers on my YouTube channel. For me to then say, that's not important in life. Are you kidding? You just told me it was important. Like, who am I to tell you what you're doing is or isn't important in life? And so, let me frame it right. And I would ask you this. First, if you take out a pen and paper and just write down the answer to the question, what is most important to you in life? What's most important? And people generally kind of have the same answers. They're like, well, I guess my health is important. And you don't always think that until someone takes it away from you. I mean, I don't know about you, but I remember I used this hand to like brush my teeth. And one time I hurt this arm and it was in a cast. And I don't know if you ever tried, have you ever tried brushing your teeth with the opposite hand?
Yes.
I mean, if you want to feel radically incompetent in life, just use your other hand to brush your teeth or eat. Have you tried feeding yourself with your other hand? Or anything else you need to do in life? It just reminds you how much you depend on your hand of preference for feeding yourself or brushing your teeth or combing your hair or doing anything else you do every day. And it was one of those moments where I didn't really think about my health being important until I lost a piece of it. I don't know about you, but I remember I was at the gym lifting some heavy weights and I tried a different type of squat. Instead of a free bar, I tried the Smith machine and I went down at a slightly different angle. And when I came up, I felt like ooh, oh, that's a funny feeling. And my wife looked at me. She's like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm good. I just got to sit down for a second." And I sat down and everything was fine. I stood up. We walked home. Everything was good. I got on a call with a client. Everything was fine. And then the next thing I remember is I was on the ground. She was patting my face. 911 is on the phone. And she was saying, the ambulance is on its way. And I'm like, whoa, what's an ambulance for? I'm totally fine. And my wife looked at me and she goes, "Are you crazy? You were on the ground, you blacked out and were making weird ass noises as you fell. Like, this is not okay. You need to go to the hospital." I remember being like, "No, I don't. What?" Like, I don't even remember what happened. I was squatting at the gym. I came home. I was in the middle of a call and I just blacked out. And it turns out I tweaked a little tiny thing that's connected to a nerve in one of my back and hip joints, and it pinched a nerve. It created a shot of pain, and I blacked out. And I was like, health wasn't that important until it hurt just trying to walk. And I was like, wow, walking's important. I don't know about you. One of my friends who's a motivational speaker, he has this video where he talks about he wanted to learn how to be successful. How do you be successful? And in the story, the guy goes and asks the successful guru, "How do you be successful?" And the guy says, "Meet me at the beach tomorrow." And so the guy shows up at the beach wearing a suit and tie, and he says, "Come out into the ocean." And so the guy gets out in the ocean and he's waist deep and he says, "Let's keep going." And then he's shoulder deep. And he says, "Let's keep going." And then he's just like neck deep, but he's paddling the stick, keep his head above the water. And the guru just grabs him and dunks him underwater and holds the guy underwater. And the guy's fighting and fighting and fighting. And he finally lets him come up for air. And then he dunks him down again and holds him down for a little bit. And then he finally comes up. And the guy goes, "What are you doing?" And he says, "When you were underwater, what is the only thing that was important to you in life? And he's like, getting some air. And he goes, how bad did you want to breathe? And he said, every ounce of my soul needed a breath of air. And he says, when you want to be successful as bad as we want to breathe, that's when you'll be successful in life. There's your lesson. And the guru swam off and left. And he's like, wow. And so it's this concept of, notice what happened. He took away the guy's oxygen. And the only thing that mattered to the guy was breathing. I have a friend of mine who was born with cystic fibrosis. She's had 2 double lung transplants, 2 open heart surgeries, a ton of therapy to rehabilitate her ability to breathe. Her husband, when I interviewed him, said, the biggest smile I've ever seen on my wife's face was the day after her second double lung transplant, followed by an open heart surgery to drain the fluid out of her heart that day. And she had a giant tube down her throat, and they were asking her as she woke up, like, what's your name? What date is it? Where are you? And she wrote down something, and he said, I wish I could tell you our wedding day, she had a bigger smile on her face, but I'd be lying. The biggest smile I've ever seen on my wife's face was the day after her second double lung transplant. She turned the board around and it said, I can breathe. And I asked her name's Kayla Haber. I asked her, what's the best feeling you've ever had in your life? And she said, to be able to breathe on my own without a machine helping me. And I was like, wow. And so I hope I'm reminding you how important it is just to breathe, to be healthy, to be able to move and walk, to be able to move your arms and limbs, to be able to use your hand of preference to brush your teeth, as simple as it sounds. I know you might be focused on how many subscribers you have on your YouTube channel, but if I took away any of the things I've mentioned so far, YouTube doesn't matter much. It doesn't mean it's not important. It just means it's not most important. Because there's other things that you know deep down inside are more important than that. And so all we do is when we're figuring out what the majors are, we just ask a simple question. What are the things that if I were to remove from your life, everything else would seem to just fall apart? And I always say, if I removed your health, I don't think nothing else would matter. I mean, you could have all the money, have all the people love you, be the richest person on earth, have access to everything you ever dreamed of. And if you lose your health, you're dead. You don't get to keep any of it. It's gone. So that part's interesting. Second part is I've met lots of people with lots of stuff. They've worked really hard. They have all the subscribers. They have the money. They've written the books. They're international bestsellers. They go around the world. They do all these things. But if you don't have someone to share it with, at some point it gets kind of old. At some point you realize at the top of every mountain of accomplishment, you set your target super high. You hike and hike and hike. You climb and climb and climb. You get to the peak. And there's 4 things, or maybe 3.5 at every peak. Number 1, a feeling of accomplishment. You get to the top of Mount Kilimanjaro, Mount Fuji, Mount whatever. You feel so proud of yourself because it took a lot of effort to get there. Number 2, there is a spectacular view. I don't know if you've seen the pictures of sunrise on Mount Kilimanjaro or sunrise on Mount Fuji. It is incredible. It's spectacular. Very few humans on earth get to see that moment, get to feel what it feels like to be there. So it feels good. It's amazing. There's thin air. I don't know if you've noticed, it's hard to breathe on the top of all these mountains. People need extra oxygen tanks to just breathe. And then the 4th, if you're honest, the only thing left to do is walk back down. You can't, I mean, what are you going to do if you stay up there for a month, 2 months, 3 months? There's nothing up there to do. The point was getting there. Now that you know it, high five yourself and head back down. And then find a new mountain to climb. Find something else to go after. The interesting part, though, is at some stage of our life, no matter how many times we get to the peak of the mountain, we start to get bored. We realize feeling of accomplishment, thin air, nice view, walk back down. That's it. And at some point, for some of us, we start to question, what are we even doing? What's the point of all this? Why does it even matter? Do I care? Does anyone else care? Was this a good use of my time? And not everyone makes it to this second, I call it second mountain, Lots of people get caught on the first mountain, which is what I can get out of life, what I can get from life. But the second mountain, what makes it fulfilling isn't if you can do it or not. You know you can. You've done it dozens of times. It's who you get to share it with. What makes that next accomplishment worth doing is as you get to the peak, you look over and see the face of someone you love and watching them experiencing it for the first time. And you get 10,000 times the joy you ever felt doing it yourself. And it's like, wow, there's the magic. The magic is who you get to share it with. And so I always think major number one is having your health. Major number two is learning how to build high quality relationships, learning how to build relationships with people you get to share those peak experiences with. I hope this might be leading you in a direction that is worth at least exploring and saying, have I really figured this stuff out? I think the third one, if we look at it, some people have figured out how to achieve things and become their best self. They figured out how to find someone to share it with. And then the challenge is, well, shit, we have big dreams. How do we afford this stuff? I want to go to Kilimanjaro, but that's expensive. How do we get there? And so that third one is we need to figure out either how to become better in our career or how to build a business, how to build our own company. You can achieve both. You know, Steph Curry makes $200 million or $234 million as a player. Peter Guber and Joe Lacob, they make hundreds of millions of dollars as the owners. You don't have to own the team to make solid income and earnings. Steve Kerr makes tens of millions of dollars as the coach. There's plenty of positions on the team, just like owning the team, for the ability to earn a solid living and take care of yourself. So we kind of have two paths in this category. For those of you who own businesses, we can show you how to, really, really leverage and multiply and scale. For those of you who are in a career or in a job, no problem. We can show you how to optimize and maximize your career path as well. So you got to learn how to earn so you can provide and take care of. And then eventually, once you figure it out, become your best self, find someone special to share it with. You've really learned how to maximize your earning potential in your career or your business. The last piece is wealth. And to me, wealth is time freedom. You get to wake up and choose what you want to do and when you want to do and how you want to do it. Financial freedom, you have the income to invest into the opportunities to do all the things you want to do in life. And then the third part of it is purpose and meaning. You found something worth investing your life into every day. You found something that's worthy of trading your time and effort for it each day. You found something that you love and you can pour your heart and soul into it every day and really enjoy the process of building whatever it is. So those are some of the majors just to think about if you're exploring these kind of topics.
I love this. And I was also reflecting as I was reading the book, and definitely 200% agree with the three core pillars: the health, relationships, and the purpose. Business, career. Ideally, your business and career provides you with that purpose. And I'm curious for you, Jairek, what is your emotional rocket fuel? What makes you get up and show up every single day?
Sure, lots of stuff. I think one of the favorite things I have in life is making my wife's dreams come true. And so every year I look at her list of dreams in life and I pick one and I go after it. I remember a few years ago, I flew us to Chengdu, China, so she could snuggle a panda bear in real life. She loves pandas. We've flown to Australia so she could cuddle a koala and feed some kangaroos by hand. We flew to the Bahamas one year so she could swim with the swimming pigs. She loves pigs, and there's these pigs on the island there that go swim, and you can feed them and hang out with them.
I'm seeing a pattern here.
Luckily she loves animals. We just went and spent 5 weeks in Cape Town, and we went on safari out of this beautiful reserve that's protecting rhinos and elephants and all kinds of stuff. And they have the big five roaming. It's like 26,000 acres with the animals everywhere. And she found out there's homes for sale on the property. So Right now I'm buying a piece of land, and then we're going to build a house so that we have a place out there, and every year we can go visit for 3 months and hang out with all the animals. But every year my goal is, how do I make another one of my wife's dreams come true?
That's really beautiful. I love that. And there's a lot of it in your book around contributing to others, contributing to people around us, sharing with people around us. And I'm also thinking, for a lot of high achievers who maybe go up those mountains, realize, okay, it's just a peak, come back down, maybe share with someone, but then they want to make a bigger difference and contribute more. What do you think are some avenues people can explore to start contributing on a larger scale?
Just ask people where they need help around you. It's a lot of fun, to be honest, when you see where people are in need and what kind of help they need. When you're a high achiever, I work with people who are not even the 1%. Like, they're usually the 0.01% of humans on earth, and whatever they do, whether it's the special ops in the US Air Force and the, Army or Marines there, whether it's top people at Harvard or executives, business owners, they're usually the really, really peak of what you can accomplish in those categories. And what we're hunting for with them is, how do you do it just a little bit better? These aren't the type of people that we have to like get them off the couch to go run their first 5K. These are people who are trying to put in, can I get a 1 minute better in my marathon average pace? Can I get 1 minute improvement on this? Can I get 30 seconds better at that? Like, these people are looking for that little bit of edge that makes the difference in a huge ROI for them in their life and business. And so generally when working with these people, the big thing is figuring out if we're mapping and tracking their current results, which most of them already do, and then coming up with creative solutions of how do we make it just a little bit better. And so the same thing applies with making a difference. Map and track. How much of a difference are you currently making right now? And you can count. Well, our company provides 1,500 jobs. We're able to donate X thousands or millions of dollars every year. That impacts the city in the following ways. Well, great. That's our current post of how well we're doing. Let's set a goal. Can we get 10% better next year than last year? How can we improve just a little bit more? Now, for some of us, we're like, okay, crazy. All those numbers sound great, but I helped one person last year. It was myself. So that's okay. Next year, help two. Just pick a holiday, pick something that normally you're like, okay, how do I get my kid a present? And be like, okay, I'm going to get my child a present, and we're going to find a family that needs some help, and we're going to get their child a present too. You don't have to go crazy like we do. You can just say, hey, I'm going to go from 1 to 2. That's it. That's my big goal for the year. I'll tell you, the amount of exponential joy you're going to feel in that process is far beyond what I can explain. It might just be one present you bought for one other person, but when you see the look in that person's eyes and the amount of joy they get to feel in their life because of it, that someone cared about them, you'll get a 10x or 100x amount of joy in your heart than you've ever felt before. And so at some point you realize how fun it is to help other people. And it gets exciting from there, because once you realize and you get a taste of it and it feels that good, it gets addicting. It's like, well, shoot, I helped 2. I wonder if I could do 3. And it becomes, internal competition of, I wonder how much I can help each year. I remember when I was just starting in my business, where I was only making $100,000 a year, a couple $100,000 a year. And I remember saving up and being like, I'm going to do 5 families for Thanksgiving in America. I'm going to go help feed them. And then it got to, my friend was like, we should do 100 next year. And I was like, okay. So him and I teamed up and put the money in, and we got 100. We were like, oh, that was cool. And then my wife was like, we should build a school so that, we can help kids who need education in different parts of the world. So her and I have built 2 schools together in other parts of the world. And I remember for my dad's birthday, we heard the horrific stuff that's going on with sex trafficking and organ harvesting. And we were like, wow. And it was at a stage of life where we were starting to grow. And I remember writing the biggest check I've ever written in my life to an organization to help stop kids from getting kidnapped and people being sold in the sex trafficking and organ harvesting. And it becomes addicting. It's kind of fun once you get into the process of helping. And just like any other thing you do, all you have to do is measure how much you're helping now, even if it's zero. If you're at 0, go to 1. If you're at 1, go to 2. If you're at 100, go to 200. Like, just set a marker and go after it and see if you can increase every year.
Yes, it's a really interesting process to actually put it as a goal, so you measure it, and so it becomes also one of the core things that you think about, because obviously the more you think about it, the more you take action on it. And that leads me sort of, it's a nice segue to the next part, which is thinking, leads to the emotions that then lead to the actions. And one of the core concepts that you discuss is emotional stacking. And I think a lot of what we said at the beginning, the majors around health and relationships, for instance, there's a huge cognitive understanding. People realize that these things are important, but maybe they don't reach the emotional understanding and actually taking more actions or prioritizing those areas more. So how can people start to use this concept of emotional stacking so they really develop this emotional understanding and not just understand it on a cognitive level?
Totally. Everything's a habit. And so if you think about it, I think Yale University did research that showed 40 to 60% of what people do every day is nothing more than an unconscious pattern in their nervous system. And so the example is, if, back in the day, when in my age, when we worked at an office, concept, but if you worked at an office and or you went to work at a physical location every day, this concept of you wake up, you get dressed, you get in the car or get on the tube or get in the subway, whatever, and you go your 4 stops, you pull off on the highway, you pull into the parking lot, you park, you get out, and you go into the office. And so repetitively, you do it 5 days a week, nonstop, without thought. And then I always ask people, how many of you, without realizing it, on a Sunday, went through the exact same pattern, parked your car, got out, looked up, and said, what the heck am I doing at my office? Most people have. And you're like, what the hell just happened? It's Sunday. Why am I even here? And what happened was your body literally went into autopilot, which is frightening considering you were driving a car. But what the research actually showed is when you do something the first time, the very first time you've ever done it, they show a brain scan of what your brain activity looks like. And if I were to just kind of finger draw it in the air here, there's a huge spike in brain activity when you start the activity. And then the brain activity has these huge spikes the entire time you're doing the activity the first time. Once you've done this activity 10 times, 20 times, 30 times, 40 times, 50 times, there's a huge spike in brain activity in the beginning. And then your brain activity drops to a gentle little hum on the bottom of the screen until you switch activities. There's a huge spike, and then it switches activities. So your brain literally goes into this gentle hum of activity, which is autopilot. You are not consciously thinking of the process any longer. It is literally your body just going through the motion that you've trained into it. So I always ask people, what have you trained yourself to go into autopilot in your health? What autopilot have you trained into your nervous system and your body in the way you respond to the people you love? How many of you have someone that you know what they're going to say back to you before they even say it? That's their autopilot. They're not consciously thinking when they say that. That is the automatic response they've built in their nervous system by practicing it hundreds or thousands of times over the years. That's just how they do it. Now, what's interesting, if you take whatever program you've built into your autopilot and you multiply it out 10 years, does it actually add up to the life you want? That's a big question for a lot of people. I've sat down with people and said, okay, show me the 5 things you have on autopilot in your health right now. Show me the 5 things you have on autopilot in your intimate relationship with your spouse. Show me the 5 things you have on autopilot when it comes to saving and investing money. Show me the 5 things you have on autopilot in how you do your marketing every week in your business. We wrote them all down. I said, okay, take it out 5 years, take it out 10 years. Do those patterns of behavior lead to the actual long-term results you want? For the majority of people, they don't. The majority of people are doing things that's nothing more than basically buying a lotto ticket, hoping they're going to get rich. It might happen, but good luck. And so for the most people, if all we did was reverse engineer and say, okay, 10 years from now, where do you want to be? Where would you need to be 5 years? Where would you need to be 3 years? What about 1 year? What about 6 months? What about this quarter? What about this month? Okay, great. What's the daily habit you need to put in place so that 10 years from now, that's where you land up? If you just reverse engineer it, which we built into our program on Udemy, what is it? I'm forgetting the name of the program. If you do Udemy/high performance, it'll bring up the program, or Udemy Jairek Robbins, it'll bring up the activating high performance. Complete Guide to Activating High Performance is the name of the program. So if you jump on there, you take that program, it literally has the worksheets and the video modules to help you reverse engineer what are the daily behaviors you need to be doing that'll add up to the actual long-term life results you want. And it'll help you break it down 10 years, 3 years, 5 years, all the way down to today. And what are the daily habits you have to implement to be on track to achieve those long-term results?
Yes, and this is linked to your concept of your ideal day, which I really like both in the course and in your book. And I also love that image of the man sweeping every day and looking so happy, and he swept the path because it was filled with purpose for him. Anyway, that's a bit of a sidetrack, but the ideal day. And I was wondering about this concept because I thought, wouldn't it make more sense or different sense to do an ideal week? Because I was thinking, can we really cram in all the things that are relevant and important to us in one day?
Yep. Well, the purpose of starting with a day is, for most people, it can be such a foreign concept that to try to create a perfect life or a perfect month or a perfect week, yeah, right. I mean, sure, I can write down my perfect week, but like that's going to happen because life, I have kids and family and friends, and God knows what else was going to happen. So I heard all this feedback and kept squishing it until I was like, okay, let's just have one perfect day. That's it. You don't have to have a perfect life. You don't have to have a perfect month. You don't have to have a perfect week. Just have one day that just blows your mind. If you could just do one day, just start with that. And everyone started laughing. And I'm like, is that easy enough? And the audience I was at when I was doing this, they were like, yeah, we could do one day. And I was like, does anyone have an objection to just one great day of your life? Nobody did. I'm like, okay, good. We're going to call it the ideal day, just one day. And all we did was chunk it down enough so that people could wrap their head around the concept instead of trying to argue that life is going to put so many roadblocks and objections in their way. And I was like, great, just do it one day. And yeah, your kids can go to grandma's house for the day if you want. So I went back and forth with these people until we figured out how to simplify it so that anyone could access it. That was the key. And so that perfect day is, could you map out how you'd want to spend the day that would make you feel unbelievably happy, unbelievably fulfilled, unbelievably satisfied and content with your life, passionate about what you're doing and who you are, excited to wake up and live this day, the type of day that you wouldn't trade anything on earth for. Like if you could live that day, nothing would be worth giving it up for. And so we have a process that we take people through, first visualizing it, feeling it, experiencing it, then capturing it. What are the most important pieces of that day? And then coming up with a plan. How do we make that your day-to-day life? How do we make that day come true? And all we're trying to get is one to start with. In the end of the book, we'll teach you how to amplify that and do your ideal week and month and year and life. But in the beginning, can you just get one perfect day? One perfect day that you're totally proud of, that rocks your world, that makes you think, wow, if that's all I had in life, that was worth doing. That's all we're aiming for, creating a target that's worth going after just one time so you can experience it.
Yes, this is directly linked to what I feel most passionately about, which is living with intention. And I think these concept of majors and minors and this concept of the ideal day, it's coming back to, if we were totally fully intentional and really focused on what was the most meaningful for us, how would we live that day? And I think for me, and it's probably the same for you, Jairek, and for maybe many also people listening that are that way inclined, we question things often and we think regularly, am I fully aligned? Is this the direction I want to go in? With that, you know, the best worth of my time. I review all of my activities every single week and think, okay, what's something I can eliminate? What's something I could do differently, etc. But it's true that many people maybe just out of habit or because they weren't exposed to this concept or they don't know about it, just do live on autopilot until something happens. So the idea is we're trying to prevent that something catastrophic has to happen as a paradigm shift to wake them up, but maybe to bring awareness beforehand and say, hey, if you could choose now, what would you choose to do differently?
And for a lot of people, that's okay. They need the catastrophe, and they need to have life smack them so hard in the face that it wakes them up and causes them to finally go for it. That's fine. If you're stubborn and you'd rather have the most painful, grueling, heartbreaking experience that absolutely crushes you and makes you feel like you've hit rock bottom, and then the floor opens and you drop like 12 more stories down. Like, if you're the human that needs to go through all that so then you can really feel like it was worth building the life you wanted, cool, wait it out. Doesn't change our life. Like, have all the pain you want. But if you're the type of person who's intelligent and you go, you know what, the best mistakes to learn from are other people's mistakes. I don't need to get hit in the face with a hammer to know that it hurts. I can just try to avoid that one. If you're intelligent and you want to avoid having to go through that, just pick up someone's book who've lived through that kind of junk in their life and say, okay, let me pick up the lessons quickly and apply them to my life so I don't have to go through all that pain. So I can then spend my time solving new problems, taking the world or my life in a place that no one's ever gone before. I'm going to go back to Star Trek, exploring the final frontier. Like, instead of trying to solve problems that have already been solved, why don't you go find problems that haven't been solved for humanity and humans in life and go work on those? Just an observation. I noticed so many people repeating the old pattern that exists in their family. And for a lot of people, maybe it's time that you're the one that finally changes the stars or the trajectory of your family tree. Maybe you're the one who finally says, you know what? My family doesn't have to argue over this dumb stuff anymore. We don't have to be the ones always struggling with this. I'm going to figure out how to do it. I have a little philosophy. It's learn, live, give. So I'm going to go learn what it takes to actually get that part of our life right. I'm going to practice it. I'm going to live it. I'm going to apply it and actually get the results. And then once I figure it out, I'll share it with other people and help them do it as well.
Yes. Learn, live, give. And I think it's beautiful. And this is what you call in your book, the hard, easy, easy, hard way. So how can people start to shift from the easy, hard to the hard, easy method of living?
Sure. So I always look at stuff, and I saw someone write a post the other day, and the post basically said, these, according to the internet marketers, being poor is worse than being rich, but being rich and not being super healthy is also, that's not as good. But if you're super healthy and you're rich, but then you don't have a great relationship, like, who are you? But then if you're super healthy and rich and have a great relationship, but then you don't have an incredible family and you don't have time for your kids, then what are you really doing with your life? But then if you have all those things, but you're not also this, and he's like, God, when does it ever end? Can't you just respect at whatever stage I'm at and let me enjoy it? And I started laughing and I said, here's the truth. You can pick any path you want to go down. All of them have incredible life lessons you're going to learn and consequences you're going to have to live through, period. The only thing you don't want to do is keep going down the same path, getting hit in the head with the same consequences over and over again, never learning or evolving. And so no matter what stage you're at, it's worth figuring out how to navigate that stage. Some of you are just figuring out how to get healthy. That's okay. Focus on where you're at. Some of you are healthy, but need to find someone to spend your life with. That's great. Focus on really learning and mastering that stage. Others of you are focused on, you have your great health, you have a great relationship, but my God, you need some money. You need a business. You need something that produces a cash machine for you. Great. Figure that out. Wherever stage of life you are, dive into it. Stay wholly focused. That's fine. The key, though, is there's two ways to go about it. Either you can do the things early that'll help you build the right muscles, and then it'll be easy forever moving forward. Or You can do the easy stuff first, which is a lot of fun and super exciting, and you get quick wins and everyone's hyped up, but it'll progressively get harder every day moving forward for the rest of your life. And so you choose which way to go. I was wanting to learn golf. I know it's a ridiculous thing to do in life, but I wanted to learn it. And I remember I signed up for this class and I was gifted this kind of starter kit, none of which included a golf club or a golf ball. I was like, what is this stuff? There was this golf club that had this weird hinge on it. There was a golf club with a round thing with Velcro on it that stuck to this little thing. And I'm looking at this stuff and I was like, none of this is a golf ball or a golf club. What am I learning? I'm learning how to hit sticky things. I'm learning how to swing a club that isn't really a club. Like, what is this stuff? And I talked to the guy who came up with it, and he said, here's what's interesting. We've trained thousands of golfers. We've helped people master the sport. We've taken some of the best golfers on earth and made them significantly better at the sport. And he said, what we learned was it's about training their body with the right muscular movements, not about hitting the ball. And I was like, is this like some Mr. Miyagi Karate Kid stuff? Like paint the fence? You're teaching me how to do stuff, but you're having me do weird chores with these clubs? And he said, kind of. What I'm going to do is train your body, your muscular structure, to pick up certain patterns of motion so that we train the right set of muscles in the right movement. And it's going to be hard, and it's not going to be very exciting because all you're doing is swinging a club that doesn't look like it's doing anything. You're not going to go straight to just hitting a ball. So it's not going to seem as fun. And all these other guys get to start by hitting the ball and doing all that stuff. And you're just sitting here swinging the same club 100 times a day. And he said, but what's interesting is after a few months, and I was like, months? This is crazy. I don't get to hit the ball for months. And he said, no, I got to train these patterns into your body. But once your body picks up the patterns, you'll be able to hit that ball 10 times further than anybody else. I was like, really? He goes, absolutely. Because I'm going to train your body in the right patterns. I said, that's interesting. And I took that concept and I said, I wonder what the right patterns are for relationships. Is there anyone who's done 30 years of research on 3,000 couples to break down the right 7 patterns people need to do every day, that when the patterns are present, the relationship flourishes, but when any of the 7 patterns are not present, the relationship is doomed, based on 35 years of research on 3,000 plus couples? They've broken it down to 7 patterns. You know the 7 patterns, your relationship works. You don't, your relationship's going to fall apart. I went, well, that's interesting. What are the 7 patterns? And I wonder if I could train my body how to do those 7 patterns before getting in a relationship, so that when I'm in a relationship, it's the natural go-to my body subconsciously falls into. I was like, that's the hard easy. It's hard doing the work before you get the reward. But what's fun is the rest of life is blissful. My wife and I have an incredible relationship because both of us did years of practice when we first got together. I did 5 years of practice before I met her. And then since we've been together, we've been practicing together for 10 years. She said it to me this morning on our morning walk. Every morning we go for a walk. When we went for a walk, and she says, I'm so grateful you're willing to do the hard work. I'm grateful you don't run from a conversation. You don't stonewall. You don't blame stuff. You don't attack. You don't get defensive. You just stand there and you know the right things to do. And I was like, I'm thankful for you. We have 15 years of practice. I have, an extra 5. Together we have 10 years of practice. But it's knowing what are those 7 things you need to do. So I've gone out and figured out who's done the research, who's figured out the hard stuff we need to learn how to master. And if I can go learn what the things are, then I can get those things practicing daily so I can build the muscle, so that in the moments when you actually need it. One of my friends who used to train the Navy SEALs says, you don't fall back to what you want, you fall back to what you trained. And so you'll fall back to the level of your training. The repetitive training you've done over and over and over again is the thing you're going to fall back to under times of chaos and stress. And so in times of chaos and stress, you hope you've done the hard easy, meaning you've done the hard work first so that you fall back to the standard that you really want to uphold in those challenging times.
So what are those 7 patterns? I'm sure people listening will be like, what are the 7 patterns? How am I doing it? Is this the work by
Go to my
Gottman?
website and opt in on our main newsletter. And I drip out content like that every week. We share little bits and pieces, and we'll share those on there if you want them.
Amazing. And the research is it from Gottman, or who did the research?
Gottman did it. Alison Armstrong did it. Imago Therapy has research. There's dozens and dozens of places we go to gather all that research. And then our job is we're kind of an aggregator. So we go learn from some of the best places on earth, and we take all the bits and pieces of information, then we break it down into simple, usable, easily applicable tools that someone can immediately apply and see a result.
Interesting. And I want to segue to maybe the last core topic for today. And it's been so wonderful talking to you, Jairek, and so great to hear all your insights from everything from the major minors to what you were saying right now about having a healthy and happy relationship. And the core thing here is that, so we spoke a bit about how to develop emotional understanding of things. And it all comes down to exactly what you were saying, falling back to our level of training and keeping in that high state and keeping that motivation up. And you say in your book, automate the motivation. I really like that sentence. I was like, yes, put your motivation on automation. And I'm thinking, yeah, what a great way of putting it. So what are some of the tools and tricks that you use if you have a morning where maybe you're not as fresh, or maybe you're a bit jet lagged, or maybe something's happened personally that's upsetting, because things do happen in life and we aren't robots, and that's not the point. But you've got a client meeting, you have things going on, and you want to still show up and be in a good state. So what are some of the things you do to automate your motivation?
Great question. So the automate your motivation part is, don't count on yourself to wake up and just do all the right things every day. Figure out what things you naturally have built into your day already, like an alarm going off in the morning for those of you who have an alarm clock, having to take a shower in the morning or get ready for the day. Think of the things you already do. Just natural. You already do it. You always get up, you go to the bathroom, you get ready. Hopefully you work out, you do all these things. Hopefully you already do these things. Now let's figure out how to use your automatic patterns to link into the behaviors we need you to do to become your best self, to live your best life, to have all the things you really want, to achieve the success you want. And so we looked at that and we said, okay, good. Instead of having music or sounds as your alarm clock, why don't you pick the most motivational YouTube video you can find, download the audio, load it into your phone, and have that as your alarm clock. You wake up to Rocky Balboa giving you a speech. It's not how hard you hit, but it's how hard you get hit and keep moving forward. E.T., you got to want it as bad as you want to breathe. Like, whatever motivates you, whatever pumps you up, gets you excited, makes you ready to go for it. Have that as your alarm clock. There's kind of a bonus version that we do for our clients, which is write down your 10-year vision of who you're going to be, but write it as if it's already happened. I'm so grateful that 10 years from now, my health and fitness is stronger than it's ever been before. At 50 years old, I'm healthier and stronger than the majority of 20-year-olds in the world. I'm so grateful that we're passionate about our lives, living on mission, enjoying every moment life has to offer. We're passionate about our life. I'm so grateful our love and passion for each other grows daily. Like, you have these statements of what your life is like in all the major categories. And then you record it, you mix it with your favorite music of you passionately stating what your future is going to be like. So grateful this has already happened. Put your favorite music behind it and use that as your alarm clock. And I don't know, you tell me if you get pumped up and motivated if the first thing you hear in the morning is yourself passionately describing your future of what your life is going to be like with the best music you can find pumping behind it. It works. So if that's how you start your day, and then you go, okay, good. Now let's say I have to take a shower before I get ready for work. Cool. You go into the bathroom. You're in the shower. Now, most people are just standing around in the shower. One of my clients was like, you know what? He wanted to read his goals aloud every morning. And he said, I want to, but I've got kids. And we live in New York City, and I have, a 2-bedroom apartment. If I'm in my room yelling out my goals out loud, I'm gonna wake my kids up, and then my wife is gonna, be pissed. I don't want to wake the whole house up. How do I do this? And I was like, well, what do you already do where the kids aren't? And he's like, well, I go to the bathroom and take a shower. I'm like, that's interesting. I wonder, while you're in the shower, scrubbing your hair, doing the soapy thing, I wonder if we could get your goals in front of you when you're in the shower so that you're incanting and reading and stating and stepping in and visualizing your goals while you're automatically doing this. And he's like, huh, that's interesting. And he came up with the simplest thing I've ever heard. He took a giant Ziploc bag, he put his goals in the bag, zipped it, and stuck the bag to the wall in the shower. He's like, done. Now my showers are in my goals are in the shower. So what this guy would do is he'd get in the shower, he'd start soaping, and he'd be like, I'm so grateful. My health and fitness is stronger than ever before. At 50 years old, I'm healthier and stronger than the majority of the 20-year-olds. I'm so grateful that emotionally I'm passionate about my life. So he's literally reading aloud his future vision statements while taking a shower every morning. I'm like, bingo, we woke up with the right soundtrack. We're now reading our goals aloud. We're starting to literally weave in the behaviors into the things he already does in his life. And by doing that, it makes it easy to do them every day. Instead of trying to carve out 45 minutes where he goes and does this perfect morning routine that he's never done before and tries to squeeze it all in. And then when your goal is to be a great family person, but your kid comes in and you go, not right now, I'm reading my statement. Like, that's the opposite of connecting with your family and loving them. And so this process of how do we build it into your day automatically so that you don't have to think about it, but it's already something you do. And we just weave in these behaviors to amplify the results.
Amazing. I know what I'll be doing tomorrow in my cold shower. Instead of counting my 10 seconds a gazillion time before turning around, I'll pump in some goals in there. Wonderful. Thank you so much. What would be the last piece, maybe advice or insight you'd like to share with the people listening to inspire them on their next steps?
Sure. Who you hang around is who you become. Figure out how to get yourself surrounded by other people who are working towards where you want to go. I think there's personal development and then there's community development. Step one is you got to elevate yourself. Once you've learned, lived, and give, you've elevated yourself and you're the happiest you've ever been, the strongest you've ever been, the healthiest ever been. Your relationship is thriving. Financially, you're abundant. Your business is booming. And then once you're in that place, now it becomes time for community development. How can you take who you are and what you do and step back into your normal daily community where people aren't into this stuff and don't get it? But how could you then share it with them in a way that's useful for them? Not telling them you figured out the holy grail to life, not being their guru or anything, just saying, hey, you ever need help? Let me know. Happy to help. Just nonchalantly saying, hey, I got your back. If you need me, feel free to ask at any time. I'd always be happy to help. And little by little, day by day, just sharing what you know when they ask and watching their lives improve because of what you've been able to share with them.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Jairek. Thank you for your time. Thank you so much for being on the show today.
You're welcome.
Thank you.